why every time we are trying to focus on something, after just a few minutes, we find our mind wandering around. We're maybe thinking about what we have to do tomorrow, what we did yesterday, what our friends told us a few hours ago. Why we are not just thinking about what we have to do in that specific moment? This is a question that I had for so long, so I started to ask myself, what is focus exactly and how does it work? First of all, to be able to manage something, we have to understand how it's working. So, how we can define focus? Focus is the ability to pay attention to something and, most important of all, to don't pay attention to something else. The last part is overlooked most of the time. Focus is a limited capacity, and when you are focusing on a specific object or topic, at the same time we are ignoring the rest. We have to learn not only what we want to focus on, but also what we want to ignore. Also, focus is a limited resources. The more we use our focus, the less focus we'll have available during the day. So the more we waste it on minor things, the less we'll get left for major things, for what is most important. And then we have to, let's say, charge our focus battery again. Focus has a loading time. When you start to do something, you are focusing on that task, but you are not fully focused. Let's say we have some levels of focus. So you are slightly focused, and then you can go more deeper and deeper until you can reach the so-called flow state. Fourth, focus is a learnable skill. It's not something that you're born with, like, oh, my ability to focus. It's like your ability of running. You're not born as an athlete. You can run just for a mile, but if you keep running, you can run way longer distances. And this is the same about focus. The point is that training running is way more simple than just training focus, because maybe you don't know how to train it, but there are several techniques that we can apply. Then last but not least, focus is something that can be controlled and is going to be controlled. The question is by who? By us, by someone else, or by the environment. So how to be focused for a longer period of time? First of all, we have to increase our focus battery. Let's think about our battery focus as our phone. We can start the day with 70% of battery or 100% of battery. And then if we're running out of battery, we have to charge it again. With the phone, it's really simple, but how to do it with focus? How to charge our battery focus? The first thing is, of course, to sleep properly. The right amount of hours and a really high quality sleep. Sleeping 8 hours is not the same as sleeping 8 hours with a really high quality sleep. The better you do it, the more energized and the more focus you'll have during the day. This is mainly a physical part about the focus battery, let's say. The second part is to drink enough water. It could be banal maybe to say, oh, you have to drink water. You have to drink the same, you have to hydrate your brain. And this is really important. 2.5 to 4 liters per day. The better you do those things, the better your brain machine will going to function. The third part is to exercise at least 2-3 times a week. And this is also a physical part, but it's going to affect your focus because it's just pumping blood in the brain. There is a little study about two groups of people. Some of them were just practicing yoga and some of them were exercising. So they are doing some activities. And their attention drastically increased with people that were exercising, but didn't increase with people that were just practicing yoga. Because by exercising, you are just pumping blood. It's as simple as that. But if you know it and you want to improve your concentration, and maybe you are not, you're just trying mental techniques, but you are not moving your body, where you're just missing a huge potential of your brain capacity. How to use your focus instead of letting others use it. To understand this concept, we have to take into account that we have two types of focus. One is called bottom-up attention and one is called top-down attention. Bottom-up is something that we do automatic without even thinking much. Sometimes we do things and maybe we think later about what we just did. Top-down is when we just rationalize what we are doing and then we take action. If you want to understand it better, think about you are learning how to drive. Your focus is top-down attention and you are thinking about every movement you make. But after a while, you'll do everything and you won't even notice it. In the first case, you're using the top-down attention, but which is the drawback? It's too slow. You can't just think and act. Sometimes you have to do something immediately and you need your bottom-up attention. That's the state where we live most of the time during the day. We are using just the bottom-up attention. But to train the bottom-up attention, we have to train the top-down attention. So you have to learn things slowly, and then you will have that behavior available automatically. What is going on is called neuroplasticity. So basically, when we're learning something, we're using our top-down attention and we are forcing a new circuitry in the brain. The more we do it, the more neurons in the circuitries are firing to each other, and the more this pattern is going to be used by the brain. After a while, it's going to be used so often that it becomes automatically, as all the movements, all the thoughts that we have available according to our skills or to what we do daily. So the first thing, we have to learn how to avoid distraction. First of all, when we are working, we have to cut off everything that can disturb our working. Let's say your phone is ringing or you are checking your phone. Put your phone in airplane mode, put it in another room, and also do this for a while, because if you just put your phone in another room, you may find your mind just thinking about the phone. So by learning to ignore something during your work, let's say, or even if you are talking with a person, maybe someone is talking to you and you are wandering around, maybe thinking, oh, my uncle yesterday told me, and someone is talking to you. How many times it happened? Another thing that we can do to improve our focus is time management. We have to do during the day exactly what we have to do and don't think about anything else. You need to have a clear idea about how you're using your time. How much time are you using for coffee breaks, by chatting, by doing everything that you may don't have to do during your work? Just analyze your time, how you are using it. Can you tell me that right now? If not, spend maybe the next week to track everything, literally everything, or do it as best as you can, so that you will have a clear idea about how you're using your time, and then you can evaluate it. Am I using my time properly, or do I want to change something? And if you know what you have to cut off, you can cut it off, and when it's going to happen, you can say, oh, now I don't have to stay 30 minutes for a coffee break. Maybe I don't even need a coffee break. I can just keep working, and then I will have my free time. So the third part that we mentioned is loading time. What is loading time? Basically, when we focus on something, there are some levels of focus. Sometimes you are just slightly focused on something, and sometimes you are so immersed in what you're doing that someone can come talk to you and you don't even listen. You don't even see what's around you because you are just like a laser beam on your task. The first thing is warm-up routines. When you have to start to work on something, in my case, I work as a professional poker player, so I just create some warm-up routines. Maybe I review some hands, I review some strategies, so my brain starts to think about what I have to do in that specific moment. You can use warm-up routine just by thinking about what you want to talk about, why you are excited to see your friends or the people that you're going to see. You are preparing your mind to be in the right state for that specific moment. And by doing so, you are just preparing yourself to start what you're going to do at your best focused potential. The second part about loading time is content switching, which is basically multitasking. There are so many research about multitasking and they all agree about the same thing. If you have to do two things, it's way much better to do one thing and then do another thing instead of trying to do two things at the same time. And so by switching between contents, you are just spending so much time by reloading your focus. So you are working with a pretty deep level of focus. There are levels of concentration and you are just working at level 1, the lowest one. As we said, focus is a learnable skill. But the question is, how can we train it? There are some techniques. The first one, the more suggested, is mindful meditation. We have to just find a comfortable position, close your eyes, try to focus on our breath. Just see how long can you focus on your breath before having any thoughts popping out on your mind. It's gonna be maybe a few seconds. And once you have other thoughts intruding your mind, you just bring your focus back. Then your focus is going somewhere else and you bring it back. You are just learning how to bring your focus back. Instead of letting your mind wandering for minutes, in just a second you're going back to your target, which in this case is your breathing. The more you do it, the better you get at it. You can do it for like 1 minute per day, then you can increase and do it 2 minutes per day, and then 3 minutes per day up to, let's say, 10 minutes per day is more than enough. Another exercise that we can do, which is suggested by William James, which is known as the father of the modern psychology, is the dot training. You just take a clean sheet of paper, you draw a dot, just a simple dot, and you fix it. And you think only about the dot. How long can you do it? Just right. Maybe in a few seconds you're thinking about something else. Why? Just because it's boring. But if you try to do it more, you are just training your focus capacity. As I said, it's just boring to do it, but even training sometimes is boring. But if you want to just get better at something, you have to do something that you like and maybe something that we don't like. Also, a trick that we can use, if you just see the dot and you try to focus on it, it's going to be quite heavy to do it for a long period of time. But if you try to analyze the dot, what color it is, how is the ink spreading around the dot, is the dot perfectly centered in the page or not? The more you think about it, the more focused you are getting, and the better you become by doing so, the more your focus is increasing. And this is also a powerful technique that we can use while talking with people and we want to stay engaged in what you're doing. Just try to catch as many details about the other people, and by catching so many details about the dot, we are just forcing our focus to stay when we want to stay. And this is the third technique that we can use, which is during the day, try to catch as many details about everything you do. You're going for a walk. When you are walking, how is the pavement? How is the ceiling if you are in a building? How is the sky? There are how many clouds are in the sky? How big are them? How many people you see around? Try to catch how they are dressed, how fast they are walking. Try to catch as many details, because the more you do it, the more you train your focus about catching details, and the more you train your focus to zero in what you're doing. And this is something that happens daily, that we see so many things, but we don't even catch any detail. And if you want to have an example about it, just think if someone tells you to draw a coin, like €1 or 1 penny, whatever country you're in. The coin that you see the most, how many times did you see it? Maybe thousands of times. But if you draw it, how many details are you missing? Because you're not paying attention. Even just a coin that we have seen so many times, we are not even to remember the basic part. Because if we draw it and then we compare it to the original one, you are going to miss so many details and you have seen it thousands of times. You just weren't paying focus. So the first part is that focus is something that can be controlled. It's going to be controlled by us, it's going to be controlled by something else, or it's going to be controlled by the environment. To do so, we have to be active in what we are doing. And to be active, we have to know exactly what we want to focus on. Because if we don't know what we want to focus on, the focus is going somewhere else. Maybe we are falling into some advertising trap, and maybe we will see our mind wandering around. If we are passive about our focus, it's going to follow the path of the least resistance. Because focusing, being active, is energy consuming. If you do it for a long period of time, you will find your head quite heavy. Maybe you'll get a little bit of headache because it's working. It's like when you're running. If you keep doing it, you will be out of breath, you will be tired, you will need some rest. So how to be more active in our focus? The best thing is just to get organized in what you have to do, know what you have to do in that specific time, when you have to start, when you have to finish, and think only and only about what you're doing. Your mind will drift. This is going to happen, but as we see, we have many exercises that we can do to learn how to bring it back. Unless we are in a flow state, when we are like perfectly merged with the moment we are in, our mind is going to wander, is going to go somewhere else. So the point is not to don't let the mind go in somewhere else, is to develop the ability to bring it back. Because instead of going somewhere else for minutes, it's going somewhere else for like a fraction of a second, and then you get it back. So now we have the most interesting part. What do we do when we are in such a high emotional state and maybe we're not even able to think? How do we get our rational mind back? As we said before, the first thing to manage something is to understand how it's working. Think about your mind, your rational mind, as a pendulum, which is in a neutral state. When the pendulum is in the neutral state, your mind is fully rational. But if we move it to the left, it's going to be affected by, let's say, positive emotions. The more we move it, the more the emotion is stronger, and the more it's going to affect our thinking. And on the other side, we have the negative emotions. So the stronger the emotion is, the more it's going to hijack our rational thinking. How do we handle that? So the first thing we can do is to acknowledge what's going on. We have to accept that our emotions are taking over, or at least we are influenced by them, and to accept it. We can't ignore them. The more we try to ignore them, the more they're going to affect you. The second thing you can do is a breathing exercise. You can just inhale, hold for a second, and then exhale for 2 seconds. This is going to affect your inner equilibrium, let's put it this way, and it's going to help you to just slow down. The third part is to don't focus about what is upsetting you in that specific moment. Just try to rationalize that thinking. Remember, nothing is personal. Maybe you are a programmer that is trying to debug a really complex code. Maybe you are just having an argue with a friend or a relative or whoever. This emotional state is going to compromise what you are dealing with in the moment. Always try to see it just as a game. There are some rules, there are some tough parts, and the better you become at handle those emotions, the better you become at dealing with work and at dealing with people, and just become better about being more, just focus about what you are doing in that specific moment. And also remember, what is affecting you is going to affect others as well. So when you are overwhelmed by emotions, also others are going to overwhelm by emotions. And also others are going to lose their focus. And maybe they are just having that behavior to you. Because the more you do it, the more you take things personal, the more you are just losing your focus. Now the most interesting part. How focus and happiness are related to each other. For many years, I tried to understand happiness, and I was thinking about why I'm not happy so often. Maybe I can get that, maybe I can become good at something. And I was trying so many things. I was becoming better and better in what I was doing, but I wasn't just becoming more happy. And I started to think about it, to read books, to watch videos, to try things on myself, but nothing was changing. And also, I wasn't even able to define happiness as we define focus, as the ability to focus on something or don't focus on something. But how do we define happiness, and why is it related to focus? I recently found a definition, and once I read it, I was like, maybe happiness is exactly what I've just read. When you focus so much on something that you lose contact to everything that is going on around you, you don't hear any sound, even if it is so loud. You don't see other people around you. You feel like you're just entered in another dimension. The time stops flowing. You're just there, nothing else matters, you're happy, you're alive, and you didn't even notice that. This is the best definition of happiness that I ever read. It is, for me, so true, because once I read it, I started to think about the best moments of my life, and they were fitting in that definition perfectly. It was exactly as it was described. I was so focused just about what was going on in that specific moment, in the real present. I wasn't thinking about anything else. There wasn't any other thoughts intruding my mind. I was in what is called the flow state. So happiness for me is reaching the flow state. And put it in other words, is being fully present in the present. Especially nowadays, we're living too much in the past and in the future that we're just never live in the present. That's why statistically the average happiness is decreased so much, because we never live in the present. There's a quote by Emerson that says, "We're always getting ready to live, but never living." We're always thinking, when we are in the present, about what we have to do in the future, or just about what happened in the past. We go to a concert, and instead of living the concert, we are recording it with a video that we never watch again. What I'm trying to say is that living a focused life is just the best we can live. So by training our focus, it's not just getting better in something, it's just not about performing better, but it's mainly about living better. It's something that can deepen the relationship that we have with each other, that we have with our friends, with our relatives, with our parents, with our fiance, with everyone. The more we focus, the deeper level we can reach, and the more happy we can become, and also the people around us will become more happy, because this happiness is like spreading.